So, the wonderful thing about this game... Wait a minute. So, I know most of you watch these videos in slack-jawed amazement at the sheer financial outlay that's put into this. But as Louis said in the comments, I'm often guilty of hiding my light under a bushel, so... This is awfully convincing. There. You can really smell the expense. So here we are, the top 10. These games represent the absolute acme of the hobby. I'm jealous of all of these games. I'm jealous of the people who made these games. These games represent a standard we should all aspire to. And so, I would be guilty of criminal negligence if I were to just fly through these games like I have the rest of the list, so I'm going to take a little bit more time with these ones. Please forgive my indulgence. Also, while you're here, why not leave a comment in the box below and hit all the buttons? In fact, just close your eyes and mash the keyboard. That's how I wrote this script. There's one facet of my gaming that I don't talk about very much, and that's how masochistic it is. I'm constantly drawn to the table where I'm slapped and smacked and humiliated. I'm so bad at these things, and yet I drag my husk back again and again and allow cardboard and wood to demonstrate how stupid I am. Orleans is the quintessence of this. I love this game so much, and yet I'm truly dreadful at it. How can I not keep coming back again and again, though, when this thing is just so brilliantly put together? Great games have great arcs, and Orleans is no exception. From humble beginnings, the game soon becomes an exercise in abundance control. Simple accrual will leave you flabby and inefficient. There is no room for the gluttonous indulgence of the Jeff Bezos type here. Cram your bag full of stuff, and your decadence will weigh you down and eventually throttle you. Orleans implicitly understands that board games utilise the whole body, not just the intellect. There is a simple, tactile joy in putting your hand in the bag, jiggling the tokens around and then pulling them out. And then comes the real challenge, working with what you've got. That's why I love Orleans. That's fundamentally why I love games. They allow a person a level of mastery that is so rarely achieved in real life. Not me, of course, someone with half a brain, but so much comes together in this game, and the result is just brilliant. But don't, and I cannot stress this enough, don't confuse this with the stories version. I didn't read Lord of the Rings until relatively late. I was 17, but I've read it at least 10 times since. It's a refuge. The depth and sheer plausibility of Middle-earth, the simple heroism and the goodness for goodness' sake is a respite from the messy and fear-inducing grayscale of the real world. I'm obviously not alone in this, and so such a monumentally loved work demands that someone show it the utmost respect when adapting it to a different medium. Thank God those someones were Roberto de Meglio, Marco Maggi and Francisco Nepatello. So much knowledge, respect and love shimmers from this game. It's a fastidiously perfect evocation of Middle-earth. It's so elegant in its treatment of the source material, the way it lays out the political intransigence of those who just wait to be overrun rather than actually do something. And a cursory glance at the board shows how unbalanced the conflict really is. And among the world-striding brutality, A faint glimmer of hope wends its way through dangerous lands. The story of Frodo and Sam is faultlessly rendered here. The frantic scramble, the huge distances, the will-sapping futility, all of this just leaps from the board. The way board games tell stories is not through poorly written flavour text, but through mechanisms that build a tangible world through seeming abstraction. Nothing does this better than War of the Ring. This is a fitting tribute to a towering work of art. You need to play this game. Human beings manipulate. It's our superpower. We're not very strong, we're not all that agile, but we can wheedle and plead and argue and beg. We can crack hypnotic smiles and spin bullshit into bouquets to dazzle others. We do all this, and so we succeed. This is Stevenson's rocket. The more I play Reiner Knizia's games, the more I'm convinced that he has a scalpel-sharp understanding of human motivations, and he uses this to mould us into machines that are designed to enjoy his games. Stevenson's Rocket is a game of deceitful cooperation. It asks us to flex our manipulation muscles, to exercise our greatest power, to get others to do what we want them to, and all of that to our benefit. But be careful though. That grin across the table might just be the beginnings of a growl. This game is unremittingly and hilariously brutal, but there's so much more to it than that. Through lean and supple rules, concrete and painful decisions arise, though it's through this central conceit that you can coax others to do your work for you that makes this game so fascinating. Get them to build the rails in the places that yield you the points. It's a great representation of ambition and frustration, the true human states. It shows that Knizia is a great student of the human id, even though he's not a fan of it. Because it's only by suppressing your id that you can be successful at this game. And this is why I'm terrible at it. This is another one of those games that dragged me bodily into the hobby. I remember playing this and understanding it. I also remember giving myself a pat on the back because I wasn't a complete idiot. This game just pulsates with character, and through that character, delightful theme emerges. This is done with the brilliantly thought out special powers of the pirates that perfectly match the characters that they represent. Whether that be aggression, murderousness, or simple mischief making, the way the powers tally with the pirates on the ship is absolutely magnificent. All of this would be to nothing though if there were no game here. Thankfully, there's a spectacular one. The way these powers ricochet off each other. Each card lay has the potential for hilarity. Each card lay has the potential to tank your game. It makes each card lay shiver with potential. The true genius of this game, though, is how accessible it is. There is nothing opaque here. It's the way the characters make so much sense that leads you through the game, that grounds your tactics to real human motivation. The boxers' class-ridden resentments, the barmaid's boozy generosity, and the monkey's chaotic leapings make this game brilliantly graspable. It transforms it from a game into a 3-act play of deceit and revenge. There's a real story at play in Libertalia. The fact that there are no expansions for this game is truly criminal. All All hail simplicity, the rigour of simplicity, the depth of simplicity, the delight of simplicity. Patchwork has been woven into a perfect whole rather than haphazardly stitched together. It has been polished and buffed into a perfect sheen. Pick any metaphor you like that implies perfect execution and you can apply it to Patchwork. It's so much more than filling a grid with tiles. It's a struggle against the one thing we always need more of: time. It is a game that rewards judiciousness and punishes fecklessness. It also has a fair amount of injustice too, as all of your best laid plans can be swept aside when the bastard across the table sweeps in at the last moment and takes the final piece of your puzzle. This game is a rebuttal to the notion that you need all of the levers and the buttons to produce a game that is challenging, moorish and fun. Patchwork is a complete game. It's a game that testifies to all the petty successes and injustices in life. It's a game that tells us through simple, meditative acts our lives can emerge. And it does all this in 15 minutes. And after those 15 minutes, you see your work laid out in front of you. And so rarely is it perfect. So rarely is it correct. But somehow, it's always right. Woof! So here we are, about to jump into the 5 most important games in history. And I say that with a complete absence of any irony. So I just want to remind you that this video was made possible by the support of my patrons. You can become one too by clicking on the link in the box below. And please subscribe, because once I get to 1,000, I'm going to do a special show. And I promise you, it won't be in the nude.